Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Olender. I teach social studies up at Teaneck High School, and I just wanted to show you a little bit about Padlet from the teacher perspective, about how to create one and some of the options you have, and then I'll take you through some of these and just kind of show you, what it looks like when you have a finished product. So once you create an account and you log in, you'll see the screen will actually be blank because at that point you won't have any of these boards created. So you'd go to the top left and make a Padlet. And let's see how quickly this loads. We've had a little slowdown here today with Padlet, but we shall see. All right, there we go. So you get 8 different options, and honestly, the wall, the grid, and the shelf option are pretty similar, and the ones that you're probably going to find yourself using the most. The canvas is another one that I've used. The canvas is a little bit more free-flowing, kind of like a brainstorming type tool. You could imagine if you were doing something in the classroom and just having the students come up to the whiteboard with either, writing something or a Post-it, and they kind of put it wherever. That's kind of the idea behind the canvas. Whereas the wall, the grid, the shelf, it gets structured a little bit more. I was utilizing the map a little bit this morning. I think that's a pretty good feature for a social studies class. And then I could also certainly see the timeline being useful. But for now, I'll just start with the wall. So I'm going to hit select. And you'll see here all these, I guess positive or goofy little sayings that they have throughout this. So you just have to watch out for that because they include it in the title of their Padlets as well. So you just want to make sure you change it to something that's more appropriate to your content. All right, so this is what it comes up to, and this is the first time I've seen this just straight brown background here, but you can see at the top it's calling it my terrific Padlet made with a wink and a smile, which happens to be true, so very perceptive. But for the title, so I'm just going to change this and I'll change it to teacher tutorial. And then for now I'm just going to delete the description, but since I used it in multiple classes, last year, I might do that for my global history class just to help me organize it. This year, if I'm going to have a different one per class or per period, maybe I'll say global history period 4. The rest of these features ultimately are optional depending on what you're looking for. A fun little feature, you can add an icon. So since I'm teaching global history, I'm going to come up here and try to find I found this pretty quickly earlier, but now I'm, of course, here we go. So I'm just going to come up here and click on the map and add that. This you don't really have to change. When you share the link, it's already made, so I wouldn't even bother with this. The wallpaper, you get a bunch of options. That certainly you can come around in here and play with. If you click the gradients option, that will change it, and you'll see what opportunities we have here. So you can see, it's colorful, but some of these have a little bit more of a pop of color, but it's not too distracting. So I'll just take the nice sunrise or sunset effect for the moment. You can go back, pop into the pictures, and again, some of these can be distracting, but a lot of them can also be kind of fun. As if you can imagine if you're doing something that's more older, ancient history, to use the scroll background, so you can kind of enhance the effect as well too. Now, when I come back to these features, okay, you can play around with the color scheme of just what your note is going to look like, whether you want them to be lighter or darker. Options for the fonts. The attribution, I always turn this on because then when a student creates an account, it will automatically put their name on there, so you don't have to worry about reminding them to add their name. This one, again, do you want a new post to appear first or last as they come into the board? you can have an option where students can add comments to specific posts. So that's really good if you want them to go back and forth and they don't have to create a new note, because it can get kind of crowded. Or you can make an assignment where the students, are creating something, and then you ask another student, say, okay, now go respond to one of your classmates. I'll just jump down to where it says content filtering at the bottom. I always do the require approval. I don't really have those kind of issues, with my students, where last year I was worried. We were together for the whole year, so I wasn't really worried about anybody goofing off. I did it more so for the sake of those students that aren't confident in what they're doing. This way, when they post something, I can see it before the rest of the class does. So then I can jump in and say, hey, Michelle, I like what you put, but it's a little unclear. You need to just fix your wording a little bit. And then Michelle can go in, fix it, and then I can approve it. So it's a good way to kind of help the students through that. You have to watch with the filtering profanity one. If you put that on, I was doing something about World War II last year, and I noticed that when students were trying to include the name Hitler, it took Hitler away and put in an emoji to try to hide what they considered to be a bad word. But of course, that was affecting what we were trying to do with the content. So that's why I just used the require approval. And so then I'm just going to hit next on the top right here, because now I've decided these are all the settings that I want to use. And here we go. Let's try that again. All right. Okay, so we got it through. And so as it says, we're all set. We can start doing this. And then these, you don't lose the ability to change these. So let me close that. So now here's my Padlet. And if I decide, you know what, I actually don't want this background, I can come up to the gear and click to modify, and I can go right back in and change anything. So that's good if you forgot to do something as well. Once it's here and it's created, now if you want to push this out to your students, there's a couple ways you can do it. So if you come right up to where it says share on the top right, you can either click this to get the link and post that on your Google Classroom, or if you need to email it to students or something. You can email directly, but that just depends on what kind of app you have on your computer. Or you can link it to your Google Classroom and share it there as well. One other feature that I really like is save as a PDF. So once your students are done doing something in the classroom, then you can save it this way and post it on Google Classroom, and it might be a little bit easier for them to reference rather than coming through the whole Padlet. So at this point, the video will keep going, but I want to stop and just make mention that that's it. That's how you create one. It's done. I'll show you a couple little things about how to make a note and everything, and what some finished products look like. But I just want to offer that we're kind of at like the halfway mark here. If you wanted to just stop and play around with it first, and then come back and see what some of the finished products look like. So if I wanted to create a prompt for my students, all right, I can either hit the plus sign that you see on the bottom right, or I can just double click, and I can add, question 1. And so I'll say, what are you most looking forward to with the new school year? And that's it. It's created. Now I can come back here. I can change the color of it if I want to make it stand out. And the students then would be able to come in and respond to this. And they would create a note the same way that I just did, either by double clicking the background or by hitting the plus sign. If I add another note, because we're in this wall setting, it'll just push it off to the left. So I can say question 2, what was your favorite memory from last school year, something like that, and away we go. And so the wall automatically starts to get populated, and then you can move these around. Oops, there we go. And depending on if you did want to change the order of a couple of them. So I'm gonna bounce back to here. And so these are some ones that I've used in the past. So I'm gonna click on this one. And this I was using in the spring. And this utilizes that shelf template that you saw in the beginning. Now what I did with this was basically doing a DBQ, or at least the prep work for a DBQ. And so on Google Classroom, I provided students with the link to this Padlet and to the documents. And then I had split them into groups, and so you can see here from Joseph. Joseph was assigned documents A, C, and E. And then other students were assigned documents B, D, and F. And so this worked out well because when they read, so after they read document A, here was the prompt of what they needed to complete. Same thing for document B. And then they could just hit the plus sign, and that would allow them to create a note. And this became really helpful because this was toward the end of the year. So certainly the students were very fatigued with, just how the way the school year ended. So this was a nice way that before we did the final writing prompt, it was a chance for everybody to get to look at some of the documents and get a sense of the argument. The question was the use of the atomic bomb in World War II appropriate or not? And so they got a little bit of an insight into some of the documents, but then they could also come back and see here what some of their classmates said for other documents. And then same thing, I could save this as a PDF for students who thought that might be a little bit easier than coming back here to look at the Padlet. If I needed to, I could add another column to create, if there was another document or something like that. So this one worked out pretty well. I'm going to go back here again. This I was using for the summer program. We were talking about just, a variety of things: fake news, media bias, how to choose your sources. So, and this is the one that I showed you before, or talked about before, the Canvas one. It's a little more free flowing and, kind of good for brainstorming. So I was just kind of giving it a test run, and this I was able to link to a video, and it posts the video right here. So if I hit the play, it plays there. Now you can make it larger, if they needed to, which for most of the videos they will, and then you just hit escape and it brings you back here. And that's another good feature of the Padlet, is it kind of keeps everything in-house. So they're not jumping back and having a million tabs open. And then it's even good from my perspective too, is that once I post documents to this, or resources to this, this is the only thing I have to worry about during the class. So I don't have to have the 100 tabs open that I usually do. Now this was sort of part one of the class, and then I wanted to talk about a little bit more media bias. And so I inserted this picture. And again, what's really good is they can just click on this and it makes it larger and you can look at it, and then we can talk about it. And everybody's seeing this at once. And it saves time because it's not like I have to say, okay, now please go back to Google Classroom and pull up the picture, the media bias chart picture that I posted. And then you're going off the page and then you're saying, all right, who's with me? Is everybody looking at the picture? Or at least here, we're staying on the same website. And the Padlet really has no end, because now you can see I'm moving on to part 3 of the assignment, or of the class that day. And this was something that I didn't even realize it did until we were doing this lesson. I posted a link to an article from the New York Times, and watch when I click on it, again, it stays right here within the Padlet page. And it also eliminates all the ads. You see, it just says advertisement. And this is really good because this is obviously much cleaner and nicer to read, I think, than, most websites. Same thing with this one from NBC News. Now it keeps, some of the graphics from the website, but as you scroll down, the only extra link that you see is a related story. But it takes away all the different ads and other things. So I think that's pretty helpful for students as well. And then the last one, I was playing around with this earlier today. And again, I think this is pretty great for social studies. You can put these different pins on the map. So I did some of the baseball stadiums that I've been to as a way to play around with it, since I haven't been able to go to any baseball games in 2020. I was just trying to have some fun there. So I put a pin in Seattle. So if I click on that, I was able to put that picture as well. And, it says T-Mobile Park as the name of it. If I come down to Los Angeles and click Dodger Stadium, same thing. So the way that worked, I'll just show you this real quick, is if you hit the plus sign and search a place. So what's the stadium I have that I posted on here? Let's do in San Francisco, AT&T Park. Okay. So if I click this, it goes automatically right to this location. And I can add a picture by doing this. Now, if you click, this is going to search Google, and it's actually going to search what's already typed here. So because I want a picture of the stadium, this actually works out pretty well. So I'll just add this. And it's going to add the and while it's adding the picture, I'm going to scroll in further, all right, to show you how it brings us right to, well, the name of it changed, I guess, but how it takes us right to that actual location, okay? And that pin will stay there. And so this is pretty good, again, depending on what you want to do. If you're talking about the American Revolution, right? You can have a class where students plot where one of the battles were and then write a description on the note. So there's a lot of features to this. And so again, I just wanted to kind of show you how to create one and what some of the finished products look like. Okay. So I hope everybody has a great year. Good luck to you. And I know it'll take a minute, but I know we'll get used to it and we'll do great with the virtual learning.